7 tradition states every A group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. There's no dues or fees, but we'll pass the basket. This is a weekly STEP meeting. Our format is as follows. A speaker is asked to talk for 25 to 30 minutes on the STEP of that week, followed by discussion or questions until 7 p.m. You can find these weekly STEP meetings on our YouTube page, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Doylestown. Don't forget to smash the like button, subscribe, and share. That brings us to the speaker portion of the meeting on this day of Monday, June 12th, 2023 in Doylestown, PA at the Monday night 6 p.m. Stay Alive Literature and Step Group at St. Paul's Lutheran Church. Tonight's speaker is Ren, and Ren's going to be sharing her experience on step number 8. Please help me welcome Ren.
I'm Ren, I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Ren.
So before I get into step 8, I guess I will give you some background. I was one of those people that was just born with a resentment. Like, I feel like the day that I was put on earth, like, I was probably angry. When I was little, I was constantly measuring myself up against, like, every other child, every other adult. I thought I was an adult. I definitely had an authority problem. I grew up with a single mom. She was 16. Well, she is my mom still, but she was 16 when she had me. So my grandparents helped raise me. And I have a very interesting, crazy, dysfunctional family, and I love them. I had this cousin who was 1 year older than I was, and we were complete opposites. I was like always a little shrimp as a child, and she was always like tall, like big blue eyes. I was so jealous, and I often would just like compare everything about myself to her because she was like the sweet one, the loving one, the naturally good one, and I was just evil. My family had this tradition where like if we were good before Christmas, an elf would like put a little present in our shoe to motivate us, and I would like steal her presents out of her shoe and put like pennies in her place and like tell her like, oh, like the elf gave me 2 lipsticks and you just got a penny. And my family obviously did not let that fly. So as I grew, my parents just didn't know what to do with me, and they were like incredibly sheltering. Like, they had odd ways of punishing me, which would be like isolating me, like for months at a time, or like sending me to school in clothes that they knew I would be like embarrassed of so that people wouldn't like me. And that really hurt me. And that like created this big feeling of like still not good enough always in me. And around that time, I was only ever allowed to really be around my family. I like could make friends, but I like really struggled with like social skills and boundaries. And I was like sexually abused by a family member, and it was devastating to my family when they found out. And that just also reiterated in me that like I'm not enough, I'm not good enough, I'm worthless. And I acted on that out of like anger. I didn't really drink or drug or do anything bad. I like worked like 3 jobs in high school. I was like an honors student. I like volunteered. I did a lot of stuff. I was like trying my best to be like better than what I thought I was. And it just felt like no matter how hard I tried, I just like still couldn't get there. And like even if I was like in a group of people that like loved me, I just felt like I was having the least amount of fun and I was the least likable, and they were only hanging out with me because they didn't have anyone better. And so, which I guess even looking at that, that's like kind of ego, prideful. But I moved out when I was 18 because I struggled with my parents. Like I really did. I just had a really hard time accepting rules. And when I turned 18, I was like working and going to college, and I thought like I had it together. And I met somebody. I had like an older boyfriend at the time, and he like introduced me to drinking, really. And I remember like my first drink just like made me feel okay. Like it made me feel like I could live with myself. I didn't have to be ashamed of anything, and I like could like talk to people, and like it felt like there was nothing different between them and myself anymore. And like I was one of those people that as soon as I started drinking, I was just off to the races. Like first drink led to like daily drinker immediately. That relationship lasted for like 5 years, and I just died inside. And like I went from one relationship to another after that, and I eventually came across somebody that introduced me to drugs, and I loved them. And eventually, like, I thought that like I was like this really put together person living this really glamorous fast life, and like that was not what was actually happening, but like in my delusion that is what I believed. And everything that was wrong with me was never my fault. It was always because of my childhood. It was always because of the people I dated. It was always some external factor. I don't make enough money. Maybe I'm just not this. Maybe it's that. And I just continued to like use drinking and drugs until like I had nothing left. Um, so I'm in this like little tiny apartment, and I'm no longer paying my bills. I have animals. I'm no longer taking care of my animals. I'm not coming home. I'm not letting them out. Like I'm not feeding them, or if I did, I would like leave out a giant bowl of food and like hope that they'd be fine for the next few days until I found my way back. My electricity's off, it's winter time, like it's getting pretty bad. I begin selling my body. I like really start to not like the person I'm seeing in the mirror anymore. And I just felt like something had to change, but I still had no concept that it was like I have a problem with addiction. It still did not cross my mind. Um, I nearly died with this like one person that I like had sold my body to. I thought I was going to die, and I asked him if he would just let me go and keep the money, and he wouldn't. He told me like, "No, I know you can do this." And so the next day, like he gave me my money and I left, and I remember like thinking to myself, I'm never going to do that again. Um, and I didn't like ever meet up with anybody else like physically after that, but I would like entertain things online and like whatever. But God works in funny ways because I like knew something had to change, so I like moved home and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna get my bachelor's, I'm gonna go back to college, I'm gonna finish school, I'm gonna turn my life around. And like I never stopped drinking. Like I just couldn't. I would try to get like a week here, a week there, no matter how much like I would try, I would like lie to myself and I just could not stay away from it. It would be like right 5 minutes before like the liquor store closed and I'm like driving there and like this like anxiety ridden state, like I need to get it, I need to get it. If I don't get it, I'm not going to be okay. Like I would be drinking like old nasty liqueur that was like in the basement probably for like 25 years, like with a straw. It was just sick. But eventually I was like talking to this man online, and he was like, I like thought I was setting up like this sugar baby sugar daddy relationship, and I was like talking to him and I'm hammered and I'm like trying to convince him that it's going to be wonderful, and he tells me like, I think you have a problem. And this is like where God really steps in. Like not only did God keep me safe throughout all of the like terrible situations I put myself in, but like God really showed up here because he knew how sick I was. This man says, I think you have a drinking problem, and I don't really want to pursue somebody who has a drinking problem. So I think you need to like go to AA, and maybe then we can like work something out. And so I went to my first meeting the next day, and I walked into a room of people that like told my story back to me, that like for the first time I truly felt seen and understood and welcome. And like all that fear and anxiety I had had throughout my entire life, where I just felt like nobody could possibly accept me, was like just in that instance just immediately gone. And like I called that man, and today like I don't even remember that man's name. I have no idea who he was, but I called that man after my first meeting and I said like, hey, I took your advice, I went to an AA meeting, I can't be in a relationship for a year, so thank you for giving me this suggestion, but I think I'm really going to do this. And I did. The people at that meeting told me to just keep coming back, and I did. Every day, like for, I guess, like about a year, I went to a meeting, maybe more than one meeting a day. And I like built relationships with people that were like built on actual like connection, like people that I could understand or they could understand me. And so many nights that I wanted to drink, people would like show up for me and be like, let's go for a walk. They loved me when I could not love myself. So I start going through the steps right away with my sponsor. There we go. And I had no problem with step one. Like I knew I was powerless. Like normal people don't do what I did. Like normal people aren't like living in squalor. So accepting it was not a problem. Believing in a higher power, I always had, but I just pretended that there was like nothing there. Like all my life had this resentment because my whole family was Catholic except for me, and I felt like I must not be special enough. So when I got sober, I also decided in like 2020, like, to become Catholic, and I did it. I like went and I became Catholic, and that's like a huge thing to me because like usually in AA you hear people say like they have this resentment for like being Catholic and growing up Catholic, and I'm the exact opposite. I always wanted something, and like I just felt like I wasn't good enough to have it, so I went and I got it because it's not true, and like my higher power like loves me, like wants me to have a relationship with him. Like it's just, I don't know, that was like a huge thing to me. um but going through my steps, like I was definitely willing. Like as soon as I got introduced to AA, like it was like I just like took it and I ran with it and I loved it. And then I got complacent, and at one point I like picked something stupid up and I reset my date and I got honest and I went through my steps again with somebody else. And this time around, um which was 3 years ago now, this time around, going through my steps, it just feels like there was like this fog when I first went through them, like this blanket. Like people were telling me things and I wanted to understand them, but like I just like did not have the patience to like sit there and look up words that I didn't know. And like this time with my sponsor, she would like have me circle a word I didn't know, and then we would like look up the definition so that I could really understand what I was saying I like wanted to do. And so, step 8. Um, when I first went through my steps, I made a lot of amends to people. The one that I thought I would never, well, I made a list of people that had harmed, and going through all of the other steps, it was very clear to see that, like, I had always thought that what had happened was a direct result of others, when really it was a direct result of me, what wasn't okay in me, and then my addiction just, like, accelerated that, and like it allowed me to be so like lost in the bad things I was doing that were hurting other people, and I was so selfish that I just like had no idea that what I was doing was like hurting other people, and I was so manipulative. Like I would say like I'm just really hard for money, like I'm just trying really hard to work, and like no, like you're drinking away all of your paycheck, like your car's getting repossessed, like people in my family that like love me were like helping me, giving me money, and I'm like telling them like everything's okay, I just have no money all the time. And like when I went through my steps this time, I like looked back and I could see even more clearly the people that I didn't show up for. I could see more clearly the people that I had lied to and like pretended that I never did, because like they were kind enough to never question me. And I could just see like a great one was like how much I had hurt somebody that like I was like I love so much, and like I had just been like so controlling, so manipulative, like just really mean in my sobriety, like not working a program. I had turned right back into that like nasty, mean person, not working a program, and I had taken it out on the people that I loved consistently and like hurting them, abusing them. Like without a program, I am so sick. When I like work a program, that sickness is still there, but it's like I can see it and I can push back and say like, no, I'm not going to do that. That is not the way I'm going to behave. I'm not going to talk to that person like this. Like I will show up when I don't want to. I will push past my fear. And like once I started making amends to people, which made like before I did it, just like having a list of like people I had hurt and how I had hurt them made me nuts. Like looking at that, I felt like so much shame and like the deepest level of sorry I could feel, but then I also wouldn't want to swallow my pride and tell them I'm sorry, because to actually face the wrongs that I had done is like so like so like paralyzing to me. Like I see it, I want to take care of it, but it feels so overwhelming that I can't. So I just slowly, I talked to my sponsor and she told me, all right, we're gonna like do this together, like we're gonna slowly do this. So like some of my amends were like, I have 2 younger sisters that I like love, and one of them I'm like very active in her life and not so much the other. So like one of my amends was to become more active in her life so that she has like a positive role model, because today I can be that. One of them was a huge financial amends that was like making me feel like I had to like flee to Canada or something, because I was like, I'm never going to be able to do this. So I started doing it, just like a little money at a time, and like the like calmness, like once I actually do it versus like thinking about doing it. The change is just like, okay, like I accept that I've done this. I have to make it right. Like, and like once I actually start doing that and trying to make it right, like the relief that I feel and that the other people feel is worth like doing it and not putting it off. It needs to be quickly because I will pick up a drink if I don't do it. Like eventually the guilt will get to me. Um so I don't know, like I guess I'm just incredibly grateful for this program. It has taught me so much about being like just an adult in general. Like most of the time, I still feel like I'm just a child, and I'm not. I'm 29 years old. Like I should know a little bit about life, but I really honestly know nothing. Like, but this program has taught me like when you say you're gonna do something, you do it. How to treat people with respect. How to rely on a power greater than myself because like I cannot control anything other than honestly, I don't even think I can control me. Like that's all God when I do something good. Like I don't know, like being in AA has just helped me. And like I like just started sponsoring like 2 women and like to take somebody else through the steps is like I feel like I learn so much more every time that we talk and like I see so much more about myself through them. Like things that I like struggle with. I'm like, "Oh, like yeah, you're telling me like something you struggle with." And in my head I'm like, "I better put that like on my inventory tonight." So it's like amazing. And I really love it and I think that that is all I have to say. I don't know what time we're at.
Thanks, Ren, for sharing. So at this time, we'll open up the meeting to sharing. Please limit your sharing to 3 minutes. Please keep your shares related to the step. If you feel like drinking or if you've had a drink today, please see me or speak to somebody after the meeting. We ask that you please refrain from the use of profanity as we are in a church and on a spiritual journey. But with that, whoever would like to share can open us up.